The Cullman Community Concert Association begins a new season tonight, and our opening entertainer is Victoria Banks. Victoria is a singer, songwriter, a Canada Female Vocalist of the Year, and now based out of Nashville.
Yeah.
And anyway, welcome to Cullman.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
To begin with, what can we expect at the concert tonight?
Well, you know, Nashville's been home for me now for almost 20 years, and I've been working behind the scenes for a long time as a staff songwriter, writing songs for other artists. So I really come from the songwriting perspective. That's my first love. And of course, part of songwriting is storytelling. So really what I'm going to be doing is a combination of some of my own music with music that people will recognize from the 60s, 70s era. A lot of female hits, actually, Linda Ronstadt, Joni Mitchell, Janis Joplin, that kind of thing. And just kind of weaving it all together with a lot of stories in between. And I'm really excited about the format of the show because I get to travel with two girls backing me up. And I play acoustic guitar. I've got a fiddle playing, mandolin playing backup singer, and a piano playing backup singer. And so we have lots of big girl trio harmonies, which is a lot of fun.
Let's talk about songwriting a little bit.
Sure.
When did you get started?
Well, really, I hadn't written that many songs before I moved to Nashville, so I was in love with music, and I studied music growing up. My family was all in classical music, actually. So I was definitely the black sheep of the family when I decided to come south. But I knew that Nashville was the mecca for songwriting, and that's where you learn the craft. And so I'd done some writing, but I just moved there and tried to suck in like a sponge as much as I could and learn about the writing process. And from there I got my first job as a staff songwriter with a publishing company, which was actually an Alabama-based publishing company called Fame Music, based out of Muscle Shoals. And they had a branch in Nashville, and they took a chance on me and gave me the chance to be a staff songwriter. And then that was my very first deal, and since then I've had one deal after another doing that and balanced that with my own artist career at the same time.
As a staff songwriter, tell us what the process is. Do you know a specific artist, or are you just writing songs for whoever they could get to record? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, actually. Your publishing company generally has people on staff who are almost like the car salesman of songs. They're the ones that it's their job to take the songs that you write and find them homes with artists. And so they will pitch the songs to record labels or to management or to the artists themselves if they're lucky enough to get in there, or to the artist's hairdresser and dog walker and whoever else they can get them to try and get them recorded. So that's their job, and then my job is really to go to the office 5 days a week and write a song every day in different combinations with different co-writers, and sometimes alone and sometimes with the artists. I'm actually coming down to Alabama in October to write with Sarah Evans for a few days. So sometimes you get the opportunity to do that specifically for a project with an artist.
And Sarah Evans has already recorded some of your songs.
Yes, she's been very good to me over the years. She was actually the first artist to take a chance on me as a songwriter. So she recorded one of my songs that I had written called Saints and Angels, and that was way back around actually 9/11, so quite a while ago. And she released it and made a hit out of it, and then that really kind of launched my career as a songwriter. And since then she's recorded a couple more on her most recent record too. She did a duet with Isaac Slade, who's the lead singer of The Fray, the British rock band, so that was pretty cool.
Any idea how many songs you've written?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I should add it up sometime. I believe every year it's somewhere between 150 and 250 songs that I write
every year. And
I've been doing it for almost 20 years.
Where do you get the subject matter?
Everywhere. So be careful, because it's really a matter of walking around with your antenna tuned all the time, just looking for that next song. Sometimes it'll come from a little bit of overheard conversation in a coffee shop. It can be something from a book you read or from a movie you see. Or it can, a lot of the time, come from your own emotions, the questions you have about life, metaphors you see in nature. It's really a matter of just looking for them everywhere, because when you're writing that much, you have to find them everywhere. So I usually keep what I call a hook book, which is a list of titles that I come up with or concepts, and then I have my little iPhone with the voice recorder in it, and I sing little snippets into that. And so we don't always, we're not always trying to pull something out of the air. When I sit down with a collaborator, we'll usually each bring a set of ideas, and we'll talk through those as potential things to write, and sometimes we still do pull something out of the air. So it's very much a stream of consciousness process, and it's very fun because of that, because it feels almost like when you have it tuned in right, like you're turning the faucet on and the water just comes through. And
you've written autobiographical songs about your family, sad songs. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Yeah, sometimes songwriting is therapy, and for me, I've used it that way sometimes in my life. We are asked as staff songwriters to write a lot of happy, up-tempo, positive songs, so I definitely have a lot of those. But, I've been through some things in my life that I needed to process by writing songs, and I found that the more I shared those experiences in music and tried to share some perspective or some lesson or some silver lining in whatever it was, that I would perform them live, and then people would come up to me afterwards and be really touched by those particular songs because they related, and everybody's carrying something that they're going through or that they've been through. We've all got something. And so for me, I've written actually through a divorce. I've written through my mother's suicide. She lost a battle with mental illness, and I'm very public about that because I think it's important to be public about that kind of thing and the stigma on it. But yeah, I wrote about that, and it's a challenge sometimes to find. I always want to find something uplifting to say in the end, so I don't want it to just be a dirge of a song. But I think it just helps me when I do that, find my way through some of those experiences.
You ever written a song you thought, this is really, really good, and nobody's interested in it?
All the time.
Oh, really?
Well, it's funny. Not every day. I mean, some days you write a song and it's just a song. But if you're doing it right, you're putting your heart in it a lot, and I work with collaborators that are just so incredibly talented, who are dedicating their lives to it the same way that I am. And you really have this experience where you're coming up with something quite magical together, that's really just, authentic and from the heart, and you're so excited about it. And then for a song to find its way onto the radio, sung by an artist, it really has to be, first of all, in the right place at the right time, find its way through the right channels to get to that artist's ear. But also, it has to be something the artist specifically relates to on a personal level. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what you're going through just isn't what they're going through at that specific time. So things have to line up. And for my song, Saints and Angels, I know it grabbed Sarah's attention because the first line of it was, "We're only human." And she and her husband, her ex-husband, used to always say to each other, "We're only human, we're only human." And so that kind of got her ear the first time she heard it, and then she listened more and really loved what the song was saying. So it just has to find the right home. But there are also situations where songs will sit on a shelf for years and years, and then all of a sudden they'll find the right place. And a good example of that was Miranda Lambert when she recorded "The House That Built Me." That was a song that was 8 or 10 years old and had just been sitting there, and it found her at one point. And I've had a similar experience with Garth Brooks recording one of my songs that was, I think, 8 years old, that nobody else had seemed to care about until he heard it. So sometimes it's just, finding the right person.
You have a couple of CDs.
Yes, I brought some to kind of show off. So I've actually got 3, but I only brought 2 because I have 2 hands. But these are so my artist projects. And so I've been writing songs, for years and years, but there are certain songs during that process that really resonate with me. They feel like me. When I sing them, I get a greater reaction out of those songs. And I decided at one point that I was going to make a CD, thinking that it was only going to be, for selling at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville after I sang. And so that was this CD right here. And it, after I made it, it fell into the hands of a Canadian record label because I'm from Canada and they're very supportive of their homegrown. And it ended up being released across Canada. And this is the album that launched me on my artist career, really. So I toured up there, opening for Reba McEntire, opening for Winona Judd, opening for Lone Star and Randy Travis, crisscrossed the country a bunch of times, and won some awards and walked the red carpet and all this stuff that I never dreamed of, because I never thought of myself as the person who should step into the spotlight to represent the songs. But then when I started doing it, it took me on this journey. So since then, I've released 2 more CDs, and this is my most recent one here. This is Indigo, which I'm very proud of, and it is a set of really authentic songs from the heart, especially so. I mean, I try to make all my CDs that way, but this one, I learned some especially hard lessons when I was writing for this one, and got some perspective out of that, and so I tried to put it in here. So hopefully there's some, some wisdom in here, and it's not just a feel-good. There's feel-good stuff in there too, but it's, a little deeper. I like to try and dig a little deeper.
Tell me a little bit about Victoria Banks, the private person.
Well, the place where I grew up in Canada was in the middle of nowhere. So I'm really a country girl. I grew up in a forest, a pine forest on a piece of land between 2 lakes. It was in the snow belt of Canada. So if you can imagine that, we'd get a good 12 feet of snow in the wintertime to shovel off the roofs, and it kept us very busy. And the house I grew up in was heated with just wood. And so my dad is still living there, still chopping the wood and shaking his fist at God when it snows. He wouldn't be happy if he wasn't doing that. So grew up in this really sort of rustic surrounding, and we had to find ways to entertain ourselves. And so I think that's where the songwriting came from, really, was I read a lot, made up a lot of music. We would do things like sing Bach in 4-part harmony around the dinner table for fun, and we were all musical. And my sister would act out Shakespearean death scenes and fall on the floor at dinner time, and then Dad would steal her food, and a fight would break out. But so sort of had this kooky, strange side of me from that. But I'm very much a country girl and a nature girl. And I actually went to University of Toronto before I moved to Nashville, and I got a degree in zoology because I was so fascinated with animals. So my specialty is freshwater fish. I was an ichthyologist.
Oh, wow.
So in an alternate life somewhere, there's a version of me that is working for the TVA or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay, well, a reminder, the community concert, Victoria Banks, will be at Wallace State College, the Betty Lee Thames Theater tonight, 7 o'clock.
That's right.
Now, before you go, would you sing a song or 2 for us?
I would love to, sure.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thanks for having me.